There we go. It is good to see you all this morning. Colin asked me before Christmas if I could come and do another talk, and he asked if I could do a traditional talk. So today there are no finger lights. The smart trousers are on, and we have a more traditional talk. For those of you also wondering, Colin said that in the next talk we'll be tackling the next bit of Ephesians 5. We're not. I'm going to leave that for Colin to do next week. Today, we are going to be looking at some verses that have been particularly significant in my life since I first read them at the age of 14. For those of you who have read the news sheets, the Bibles are already open. I can see Isaiah 40, and we'll read that in a minute. But before we get to those verses, I'm going to set the context so as we're reading them that you know what is happening. In the book of Isaiah, chapters 1 to 39, Isaiah is warning Jerusalem and Judah to turn away from their idolatry and their oppression of the weak, the poor, and the vulnerable. He's telling them, if you don't stop what you're doing, you are going to be exiled. You are going to be taken away from Jerusalem, and it will be destroyed. Chapter 40, though, is the changing point in the book of Isaiah. It is for after the exile. It is a message of hope, of comfort. Israel can return home. God's kingdom is coming, and the Israelites are told to go and be heralds of the good news to all nations. Because who else can compare to the mighty God, Yahweh? There are echoes of the Great Commission all through this part of Isaiah, to go and tell all nations about who Yahweh is, his power, his authority, his love, teaching these nations to follow his way of living. And that is where we're going to jump in. That's the setting of where we're at, the changing point of you're going to be exiled, now they are about to return home, and God's calling them to go and be the good news to all nations. So we're going to pick up Isaiah 40, verse 27. We'll just flick over the page. There we go. Why do you say, O Jacob, and speak, O Israel, my way is hidden from the Lord. My right is disregarded by my God. Have you not known? Have you not heard? The Lord is the everlasting God, the creator of the ends of the earth. He does not faint or grow weary. His understanding is unsearchable. He gives power to the faint, and to him who has no might, he increases strength. Even youths shall faint and be weary, and young men shall fall exhausted. But those who wait for the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint. It's always interesting reading that in a different translation that you memorized as a kid. So Israel is being brought home. God is calling his people back to Jerusalem. And the first thing that we read in those verses is they're having a tantrum. They are moaning to God. It was like, you let us be here for the last however many years. You let us be conquered. You're not that powerful. You left us here. You don't really care about us. Is what verse 27 is saying. They're moaning at God. You can't be that great if the Babylonians are stronger than you. Well, God answers them. They're told, I am the everlasting God, the creator of the ends of the earth. I didn't fall asleep on the job. I knew exactly what I was doing. I can give power and might to the weakest if I want to. Yes, God could have stopped the Babylonians from destroying Jerusalem. He chose not to. That is a whole different talk. There's a whole talk within that bit in itself. We're not stopping at that point. But simply, God's chosen people had turned their backs on God. He let them face the consequences of their actions, and they were conquered. For the last few weeks, we've sung songs about how faithful God is, and he is. As you look through that entire series of what's happening, God is faithful to the people of Israel. constantly. And yet they constantly turn their back on him. And he's let their actions have consequences. In chapter 1 of Isaiah, the first warning they get is if you are willing and obedient, you shall eat the good of the land. If you are willing and obedient, you shall eat the good of the land. But if you refuse and rebel, you shall be devoured by the sword, for the mouth of the Lord has spoken. There was an issue with the hearts of the Israelites. They still made sacrifices to God. They still went to the temple. But they weren't living out in their daily lives the way God was calling them to live. They weren't willing or obedient. Nowadays, it's basically that they went to church on a Sunday. They did and said the right things when they were at church. But the moment they got home, they forgot all about God. They lived exactly the same way as everyone else. Might is right. I care about me, me, me. I think sometimes when we look at the Israelites, especially the Old Testament, we thank God that we're not like them. How often are we? Our society as a whole has rejected God and the way he has called us to live. In many places, the church is too influenced by the world and not of God. They are not living in faithful obedience to God anymore. Instead, they come up with excuses. Well, if God only knew what it was like for me, he'd have made an exception. God's amazing and gracious reply is no. He doesn't make an exception because he wants the best for you. He wants you to live a life to the full. He does promise that he will be with you through any difficulties, through any good points and celebrations, that he is faithful and that he will be with you. Verse 30 in Isaiah 40. Even youths shall faint and be weary. Young men shall fall exhausted, but they who wait for the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They will walk and not be faint. I wonder what jumps out of the page as you read those words. Maybe you've come today and you are tired and exhausted. Maybe that's where your focus was. Maybe it's the kind of second bit of verse 31. These are more than tea towel verses. These are t-shirt and mug verses. I have a t-shirt with these verses on. The Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint. Maybe it's the hope, the loving faithfulness of God that jumps out at you as you read those verses. I said that these verses have been particularly significant for me since the age of 14. I was going through a difficult time and had a vision of an eagle flying through a canyon. And so my mum said, let's look in the Bible for eagles. And this is the verse that we came to. That idea of being renewed, of God strengthening. It is so encouraging. But I think most of us, the bit that doesn't jump out the page is actually what we're going to look at today. It's the first part of verse 31. But they who wait on the Lord. And it is so important, those words. They who wait for the Lord. The renewed strength, the energy, the good things are there for us if we wait on the Lord. Some of your translations will say hope, others trust in the Lord. There is a condition of getting it. We have to trust and wait on God. So if there is that condition and we want that, what does it mean? Well, Hosea, when he is talking to the Israelites, he makes a similar statement. He puts it like this. So you, by the hope of your God, return. Hold fast to love and justice, and wait continually for your God. Hold fast to love and justice. Wait continually. Waiting for the Lord doesn't mean sitting in a dark room moaning to yourself about how bad things are. It means that in all situations, continue to be willing and obedient to God. In the good times, don't forsake God, because you can do this because it's all good. In the difficult times, Peter puts it as, cast your cares and anxieties on him because he cares for you. I didn't know Kim was sharing that testimony this morning, but that's what we are to do. In the Psalms, it says, cast your burdens on the Lord, for he will sustain you. Turn to God. Hold fast to love and justice. Live out the radical lifestyle of living humbly, caring for one another, seeking truth and righteousness, living God's way of living, putting God first, all of which is now so countercultural. And this is where the rubber hits the road. This is what the Israelites struggled to do. They could do the sacrifices and turn up on, Saturday, but turn up to the temple when they should do. But they struggled with living it out. And I think the reason for that is because our hearts are so often in the wrong place. They're so often focused more on the world. So let me ask you this. Do you ever love the wrong things? That thing that you shouldn't do, but you do it anyway. The guilty pleasure TV program. That piece of chocolate or cheese that you know you shouldn't eat, but you do. Buying that thing that you don't really have the money for, and really, if you're honest with yourself, you don't actually need. Our hearts get so consumed by the things of the world. Or what about your priorities in love? Are they in the wrong order? We're in the third week of January, New Year's resolutions. Do you spend more time exercising than you do with God? What about work and family time? None of these are bad things. But where does God fit in to your priorities? For many, I would suspect it goes work or money, family, hobbies, and then God. Maybe some people would swap a few of them. But where does God come in the priority list in your life? Or what about distractions? Do you get distracted from true love? Do you get distracted as you go to spend time with God by that notification on your phone? Do you get distracted by that child demanding attention constantly? Or you go to get that glass of water, because you need to have water when you study the Bible, and you see the dishes need done, and you end up doing the dishes instead. All too quickly, you're not spending time with God anymore. You're doing anything else. We know the right answer is to say, put God first. If you're in Sunday school, the right answer is always Jesus. But the reality of our actions, where we spend our time and energy, show that that so rarely is the case in our day-to-day life. Where we spend our time tells us a lot about our love and priorities. How often do you stop and wait on God to see his beauty? Fun fact for you. While part of the Louvre was being renovated, people would wait for 2.5 hours to see the Mona Lisa. They wouldn't even go and see anything else. They would wait 2.5 hours to see the Mona Lisa. And then they would spend an average of 11 seconds looking at it before they moved on. You can't pause to see the full beauty of a painting in 11 seconds, even though it is small. Their hearts weren't actually there to see the beauty of the Mona Lisa. They were there to tick off a to-do list. They were there to say, I've seen the Mona Lisa. They were there because they were in Paris, and that's what you have to do when you're in Paris. Their hearts weren't in the place to see the Mona Lisa. Their hearts was just to do what they had to do. How often do we treat God like that? How often do we use him as a cosmic vending machine? I spend time with you, God, therefore I get good things out from it. And then we come to the Bible and we read verses like the Psalms. My heart longs for your commandments. Or the Gospels, love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, and with all your mind. We think that's a great idea. And shut the Bible, it makes no difference. I don't think that's what Paul meant when he said that we are to give our lives as a living sacrifice. Whatever your relationship is like with God today, we can all make small changes to live obediently and willingly to the way he's calling us to live. I mentioned New Year's resolutions. We are 3 weeks in, so that means about 30 to 40% of people that made a New Year's resolution have already failed. The reason is they go so big so quickly. And I know myself, I get fired up sometimes, like, yes, let's do this, let's do Bible in a year. I don't think I've ever completed 2 years maybe, but I've never done it in a year. Wherever you're at, start simply. Spend time with God. Wait on the Lord. Make it a priority in your life to spend time with him. And then be obedient to what he says and put it into action. Paul, when he's writing to the Corinthians, tells us the difference that would make. And we all who with unveiled faces, he was talking about the Old Covenant, about Moses at this point. For those with unveiled faces just means those who believe and follow God. Those with unveiled faces contemplate the Lord's glory. Stop. Spend time with God. Wait on God. They are being transformed into his image with ever-increasing glory, which comes from the Lord who is the Spirit. That's 2 Corinthians 3. Those that wait on the Lord, those that spend time with God, are transformed into his image. What does it mean to wait on the Lord? It is to spend time with him. It is to be faithful. It is to love God, to be obedient. Where is your heart? For the last few weeks, again, we've sung those songs about God being faithful, and he is. Do you truly love God, or do you love what he can do for you? So as I finish, the challenge is that do we live like the Israelites, who say the right thing on a Sunday, who come and they set up and they serve the tea and coffees, but ignore God for the rest of the time, and then moan at God when things go wrong? That doesn't mean don't be honest with God. When life is difficult, tell him. I remember making prayers of God of just saying, this sucks. I don't like this. I remember praying to God saying, help. And that's all I could manage that day. You can be honest with God. Or do you wait on the Lord? Do you truly love God more than the things of this world? Do you spend time contemplating the glory of God? And do you put that love into action? As you love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, and mind, and love your neighbor as yourself. For those who do wait on the Lord, then the everlasting God, the creator of the ends of the earth, who doesn't fall asleep on the job, knows exactly what he's doing, who gives power and might to the weakest of us, who knows we make mistakes, who knows we get things wrong and we're not perfect. Yet, if you wait on him, he will renew your strength, so you can rise on wings like eagles, run and not be weary, walk and not faint.